The war on terror continues, and the Nigerian army says it has successfully repelled Boko Haram attacks in Borno State in the northeast. Then on the program, Riek Machar fails to show up in Juba, where he's expected to assume his role as Vice President of South Sudan. And later, breakdancing takes form on the streets of Kampala. Welcome. We begin here in Nigeria, where military sources say that they have killed about 30 members of the Boko Haram sect, while many of the militants escaped with gunshot wounds. This comes a day after attacks on troops of the Nigerian army were said to have been carried out by the sect members. Reports have also emerged that the terrorists, who were about 100 in number, reportedly started the attack by launching improvised explosive devices on positions of the troops, accompanied with shooting from different angles. In a statement last night, Acting Director of Army Public Relations, Colonel Sani Usman, explained that the situation has been brought under control and reinforcements sent to the trouble spots. Colonel Usman further explained that the successful defeat of the terrorists in Borno State was based on the timely response of troops and the provision of air cover by the Nigerian Air Force. For more on this situation, we're joined by our correspondent, Blessing Tuna, who is joining us from Maiduguri, the state capital. Thank you for joining us, Blessing.
Hi,
right, Blessing, thank you for your time. Is the situation in Borno State as normal as the army says it is?
Yeah, the situation is quite normal. People are going about their normal activities here in the state capital. And the assurance is coming from what the army has told us, that the situation is under control in Kareto with the reinforcement deployed since yesterday. And the injured soldiers have also been evacuated. And we understand that they are responding well to treatment here in the military hospital. So the situation is quite calm here in Maiduguri.
What kind of measures have been put in place by the military to restore normalcy?
Well, as of yesterday, when the deployments were going on, apart from the Kareto axis where soldiers were deployed, we also saw some military vehicles moving towards another axis of the state, the western axis of the state, and we understand that they were deployed there to fortify the entrance of the town from Beni Sheikh and other areas where the insurgents could easily infiltrate into the town, given the terrain of Borno. So right now, everything is under control, at least here within Maiduguri.
What kind of things have you seen that the military has put in place to counter any further possible threats from the militants?
Well, the patrols are ongoing. We see a lot of patrol vans within the town. They are everywhere, and I am sure that is towards seeing that no any such unfortunate incidents like that happens within the capital city. So the military presence around town is one thing you cannot miss. Even right now, as I speak to you, there are a lot of them going around the streets just to ensure that nothing untoward happens.
When you see military, patrols on ground, does it give you a reassurance that people are safe?
Yes, and that's why you have people going about their businesses, and people feel quite safe here within the town. People are in their shops, people are in their places of work, people are going about their businesses, and there's no sign that people are feeling intimidated or there's any sign of fear on the faces of people, and that's just the situation right now.
Thank you so much for your time. Our correspondent in Maiduguri, Blessing Tuna, speaking to us there. One of the major tactics employed by Boko Haram recently is the use of female suicide bombers. Now, it might be new to Boko Haram, but it's definitely not new to extremist groups around the world. Research shows that female suicide bombers have been used in Chechnya, Pakistan, Indonesia, and other areas where highly constrained security environments around the male movement make female attackers less likely to be subjected to search and suspicion. Now, analysts say understanding the complex dynamics of using women in this way is crucial in the Nigerian context and beyond. Joining us to do justice to this subject matter is security and terrorism expert David Otto. David, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
Right. Is there any more to the use of female bombers apart from the fact that they arouse less suspicion?
Of course, a group like Boko Haram, as you rightly put it, has been very visible in its use of female suicide bombers, and as the research actually shows, it's not just Boko Haram alone or Nigeria alone. We've had even the Tamil Tigers, has used suicide bombers before. But the main reason why these organizations, tend to women, as you said, is because women are easily can access, certain areas which are very, very much difficult to be penetrated by their male counterparts. And also the fact that, with groups like Boko Haram, the usual dressing, traditional way of dressing in some of these areas, talking about the northern Nigeria, is conceals a lot of some of these weapons that they can carry. So that is a very strategic move by groups like Boko Haram. But the other use that Boko Haram has done very well, if you look at the kidnap of the Chibok girls, is to use them as wives, because traditionally men would want to stay in organizations where they have female counterparts, maybe for just for wives or possibly to keep them company. So Boko Haram has exploited this use, and it has made it in such a way that most of the young men who have been in this group have been able to stay because they have female counterparts. So it's very strategic for them, to have a lot of women within their groups. So this is something which is quite sustainable for the organization.
Why is it important to understand, for instance, the totality of harm experienced by women when looking at this subject matter in particular?
I think one thing we have to understand is, women are not just seen as victims, anymore. I think, I should also point out that, they are seen as perpetrators. And if you look at organizations like Boko Haram and Islamic State, which wants to multiply its reach, within its designated caliphate, whether it's in Nigeria or it's in Iraq and Syria, they need women who will be able to populate, their caliphate, because without women, there's no continuity of life. So I think, the use of women is kind of a necessity to the goal that these organizations are kind of envisaging, to impose. So women play a very fundamental role, and I don't see them relinquishing those strategies of using women so far.
Is there any message you think, apart from what you say, that the terrorists might want to populate their caliphates? Is there any other message you think they're trying to pass by using women in this way?
I mean, the message is simple. Most of these terrorist organizations are faceless. So you don't really know who you're fighting. Before, you could profile a terrorist, by his sex, by saying, it could be a male between the age of 17 to 25, unmarried. But what they've done is they've expanded that. So not just males have become, members of these organizations, they've also included women. So it now becomes very, very difficult for even the military to actually try and profile who is a member of Boko Haram or who is going to be used as a suicide bomber, which makes it very, very difficult. But the most important thing is for us to understand that, this issue has gone quite viral in the sense that, both men and women are involved, so it is kind of everybody is a suspect, and, you cannot really know who is not a suspect anymore. So it is, it's become an issue where we have to start looking at, not just how are we going to defeat them, how are we going to kill them off, but more importantly, how can we really address some of these underlying issues that have resulted in also getting to this level in the first place. So I think the message that one has to pass through here is that there is no profile of a terrorist anymore, and also that women are only not just victims, but they're also perpetrators. So we need more women to get involved in some of these solutions that have been proposed, rather than just being a male-dominant field.
If saying that, do you imagine ever that the terrorists have men disguised as women, because women are seen as, softer and may not arouse suspicion, as we said earlier? Do you think that that can happen just for them to perpetrate their acts?
I mean, we've seen that happen not just in Nigeria, as I said, but in different countries as well. Talk about Chechnya, talk about ISIL. So it is not just, Al-Shabaab has one of its top commanders, as what you referred to as the White Widow. It's not just the easy accessibility of vulnerable or soft targets that is the key thing, but also, as you rightly put it, if men are dressed as women, it therefore just shows you how, the kind of strategy that they believe, is a lot more easier for women to pass through in areas where men will not be able to pass through. So it is kind of, these organizations are using the strength of women as their weakness. And then, but for us, who are trying to ensure that, these things, come to a very, very peaceful end, it becomes very difficult for us to know, who is who. So we just have to be aware of this change of strategy.
Thank you so much, David Otto, security and terrorism experts, talking to us there. Well, coming up on Network Africa, Riek Machar is yet to assume office as Vice President of South Sudan as he fails to show up in Juba. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.